Shalom. All praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the hopeful elect Akim that are teaching this word. Shalom Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakha Kodash. Now, as you can see here, it says Mahomes with his father. As you can see, the top picture, which Patrick Mahomes Sr. was a MLB player, is a Major League Baseball player, and that's his son. You know, and you can see the son is he's of mixed ethnicity. The mom's white, and the father's with the baseball is up the top. And you can see now Mahomes with his son at the bottom. So that's Patrick Mahomes Jr. grown up, and I think he plays NFL. So he's a football player, American football, and that's with his son. All right, so his son, you can see, kind of looks more like a so-called white kid. So the Mahomes Jr., Mahomes Sr. had the son, and he's a so-called mixed race, lighter skinned Jake, and that's his son. Showing you these things, because I was doing this because I was reading the comments, and you had a lot of these stupid 2/3, man, especially these women, man, just running off their mouth talking about the lineage is over and all that. No, it ain't, man. The line, your pedigrees, according to the Bible, your lineage is determined by your father. But why they're upset? Why they're really upset is that they had the kids with white women, basically. That's why they're upset. Let's call it what it is. Because that's the whole thing. If a black man gets with a white woman, they're ruining their line. No, they're not. They're actually preserving their line because they're having children with those women. See, when a so-called black woman gets with a so-called white man or men of the other nations, you're not preserving your line. You're destroying your line. All right? So a lot of these stupid 2/3 men and women talk a lot of shit, man. I want to read some of the comments. But you can see this fulfills prophecy, basically, because this is the Mahomes Senior, Mahomes Jr., and that's the grandson. All right? And you can see there's other people like this. Drake has a child that looks like a so-called white kid, but Drake's line, you see Drake's dad, he's a so-called black man from Kansas. All right? So just to show you, your lineage is determined by your father. So that kid right there is an Israelite. That kid, his granddad is Patrick Mahomes Sr. And look what he looks like. Look who he is. He's a Jake. And that's the lineage. So your line is determined by your father. And this is Mahomes Jr.'s family. So you can see they look like, because obviously he's got with an Edomite looking woman. And these are the children. All right. And they're that fairer skin. But their grandfather is Mahomes up there, Mahomes Sr. So their line, all these children, their lineage goes back to their grandfather, which is this man, and his grandfather, etc., which I'm pretty sure were Jake's through the spirit. And that's the son. So this is what it is. But the lineage goes back to this man right here on the left of the picture. So you read some of these comments and it says, I know that grandpa get a little annoyed seeing the grandkids. He can't even see himself in them. The history will be over quick. You see these stupid, there's always these women as well. Because, you know, the black woman has this thing. These Eves have this thing. If a black man gets with a white woman, you know the shit that they do. It's what do they call that? It's like a double standard, because these black women can get with white men and it's all good. You go, girl. But a black man gets with a white woman, he's ruined his line. You know what I'm saying? With these double standards. But in reality, the Lord created it where the man's seed is what's important. So the man's seed is what's important. So the man carries the lineage. So your pedigree or who you are is determined by who your father is, man. So you can see it says, I know the grandpa get a little annoyed seeing the grandkids. He can't even see himself in them. The history will be over quick. Now, does this man on the left, Mahomes Jr., Mahomes Sr., does he look annoyed? Does he look annoyed with his son and his grandkid? He looks happy to me. He looks happy that his son's got kids and that's his grandchildren. He don't look annoyed. But this is just these 2/3 wisdom, man. The reason it started to get diluted. Not he know what he was doing. It's his fault, LOL. So these Eves talking shit is his fault. Because Mahomes Sr., he got with a so-called white woman as well. All right? But what you silly motherfuckers don't understand is that is his lineage. That is your lineage determined by your father, man. The man carries the seed. So it don't matter what the great grandkids look like. They are his lineage. All right? But that goes back to that Because you got Israelites with this mindset. If you don't have a a wide nose and big lips and all this, that you're not a Jake and all that. If you don't have a wide nose and big lips or dark skin, you're not a Jake. That's madness, man. This is the Heavenly Father we're talking about. The Heavenly Father, we're speckled. We look like all sorts, man. All right? So just because the kids are lighter shade and these kids kind of look more white passing, doesn't not mean that they're not Israelites. All right? And that's all in the history of in the scriptures. So this is just the ignorance of our people, man. All right? And a lot of it is Queen of Heaven shit too, because you get a lot of niggas that will be down with that kind of mindset just to appease Eve, you know what I'm saying? And Eve don't give two shits about you niggas, man. And Eve don't give two shits about so-called black men. All right? She's out here laying with all these Edomites having their babies, but as soon as a black man does it, it's on a worldwide stage and it's an issue. All right? Can I ask, no offense, how do you feel if a white Gramps was in the same situation and expressed the same concern? Not annoyed at all, actually. His great contribution to the world. No, he is proud. He's very proud to have whitewashed his offspring. Most black people who partner with white women, she means black men, black people he partner with white women, white women or white men do so to erase their black race, of which they are ashamed in favor of the greater whiteness. The bloodline is too watered down. It's now over. No, it ain't. See, I know his dad is happy. That is the goal for his. So there you go. So the bloodline, that is the goal for most black men. I know his dad is happy. That is the goal for most black men. So she's saying, basically, they're replying to that whole, he's whitewashed, he's lying. So she's saying that's the goal for most black men. They're always cursing out black men. No, the children are their children are still Israelites. They're so-called black, but they look white because the women that they laid with, but their lineage goes back to the grandfather. So this is just the confusion of our people, man. So they think if you don't look dark skin, that you're not black, basically. You can't be of the line, basically. No, your lineage is the spirit that's inside you, not your outer shell. All right. So he looks pretty happy to me, but see, this is all the scriptures because this is Mahomes Jr. and this is his children today. All right. So let me now read this because it's in the Bible. Okay. Oh, Salakia, bear with. All right. So this is Nehemiah 13 and 22. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my power, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy. In those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. So there was, during the time of Nehemiah, all right, it says there were Jews, which were so-called black men, which that would represent, that was really talking about the tribes. So it would be Levi, Benjamin, and Judah, all right? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the so-called Negro tribes. It says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. So they married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. All right? So that's, Ammon and Moab is who? That's the Chinese and Japanese people today. They're Ammon and Moab. So you had our people marrying wives among them back then. And their children spake in the speech of Ashdod and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. So they basically took on the customs of their mums. So they spoke the language of their mums. So this is part of the history of how our people also forgot who they are and started to become mingled amongst the nations. All right. So this has been going on. But guess what? The lineage, even if you lose who you are and you learn the language of the mother that your father laid with and you start preserving their cultures of the other nations, your bloodline is still your bloodline. Do you understand? Your lineage is still your lineage. So their kids are still Israelites. All right. It says, it's just they're learning now the customs of the Chinese, the Moab and the Ammon. Do you get me? The languages, etc. Their cultures, their customs. But the bloodline is of the father. For example, there's an example of that. But she knows she's an Israelite. She knows she's a black woman. Naomi Osaka, her mom is Japanese. The tennis player, her mom's Japanese, but her father is a Levite, and she always bigs up Haiti. bigs up her father. Even on an international stage, they always try and like water down her father's side and try exalt her Japanese side. But she always says, no, I'm from Haiti. She represents the Haitian side where her father's from. She bigs that up all the time. All right, Naomi Osaka, even though on the public eye they try to turn her away from that, but she's Haitian. Her dad is her lineage goes to her dad. She's really a Levite. She's from the tribe of Levi. So that's like an example of that. All right. It says, and the children spake half in the speech of Ashdod and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of the people. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by the power, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons or for yourselves. Yeah, so, Nehemiah was telling them, look, don't mingle with them. Not because they were committing sins by mingling with them, but because the problem is they will now forget who they are. Just like it said, they left off the speech of the Jews. So they basically now are forgetting who the hell they are. That was the problem. See, the Lord set things up where we can lay with the women of the other nations. All right. But the problem in that is basically you now forget your customs. You're not supposed to forget your customs and who you are. Things are supposed to be under still the man's control. So that was the problem back then. All right. And this happens today. This happened today. Our people are now just completely lost, mingled amongst all these nations. And it's only through the grace of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai that we're now, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, that we're basically now waking back up. You know what I mean? So it says, and I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by the Lord, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his power, and the Lord made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our power in marrying strange wives? Yeah, so it said in spirit, Nehemiah mentions Solomon, because why did Solomon sin? Because Solomon sinned not because he laid with the women of the other nations, but the problem was he now followed their gods. That was the problem. All right, he strayed from who he is. All right, that's the problem. The problem is following their gods. All right, not the fact that you have the women. You pop them, you might have babies with them, but don't fall into their customs, basically. You understand? That was the problem. So Nehemiah was getting on our people for losing their way. That was really what it was. It was like you're mingling with them and you're just forgetting who you are, basically. You're leaving off your customs for these heathens, basically. And our people, Israel, has a history of doing that. A lot. The Israelites always have a history of doing that. Getting amongst other people and then turning away from who they are. Like, we always bring that up. Like, even today when we're teaching, if it's like another nation comes up and reads a sign, they want to participate in this thing that we do. They want to know, can we be delivered? But you ask, an actual Israelite comes up and they deny who they are. So, they want to keep following the customs of this world today, basically, the so-called white man's world. So I'll read this just to say, basically, I'm going to read this as well, 1 Kings 11. Like Patrick Mahomes, for example. So his children look the way they look, but you know what? They are Israelites still. Your lineage is determined by your father. But this goes back to the history in the scriptures. The history in the scriptures, man. That you had our people mingling with the women of the other nations. They're still doing it today, but they are still Israelites. All right? That's why Yahweh Shai and the angels, when they come, they're gonna separate what's what and who's who, accordingly. You know what I'm saying? The angels and Yahweh Shai, they're gonna separate accordingly, who his people are and who the heathens are. They're gonna do all of that. So this is 1 Kings 11 from the top. It says, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughters of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites and Ammonites, just like during the time of Nehemiah. King Solomon was popping Chinese, Japanese women, Edomites, which is so-called white women. And King Solomon was a Judite. Solomon himself his mother, I believe, was an Ammonite. So King David laid with an Ammonite woman. That's where you get King Solomon. So King Solomon was what you would call today, they call them Blasians, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Half Asian, half black, half Asian, black Filipino, black Filipino, you know what I'm saying? Black Filipinos, Blasians, basically Negro Asians, man. But the dads are Israelites. So that was like Naomi Osaka. So that was like kind of King Solomon was like that. But guess what? King Solomon laid with Ammonite women, Edomite women, Zidonians and Hittites. He laid with so-called white women, African women, Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. So he loved them. They were his side pieces. But the problem was he clave unto their gods. He now started building temples for them. This was the issue. The issue weren't popping them. The issue was he was building temples for them, building temples for their idols, their gods to worship. Then he's following along to it. And the Heavenly Father hates that. Because now where you're sinning now is you're worshiping other gods. He's our power. He's jealous, man. You start worshiping these fucking heathen idols outside of him, he's going to be pissed. So this is what King Solomon did. That's why this is where King Solomon sinned. That's where the sin was. He clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart. So they turned his heart away from the power, basically. All right, they turned his heart away from who his power is. Okay, it says, for it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his power, and as was the heart of David his father. Yeah, because King David was a man after the Lord's heart. You know, King David was perfect before Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, even through his mistakes. He worshipped Yahweh Bashem Yahushai wholeheartedly. You know, didn't stray and worship other gods, none of that. All right. So it says, then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. So he's building the idols for the Chinese and Japanese gods, man. All right. Why? Because of those women he was with. All right. It says, and likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrifice unto their gods. So this was the sin. See, he had the strange wives, meaning the wives of these heathens that he had, these concubines, but he was building to their gods, basically, to their idols. You know? So this has always been happening. Our people have always got with the women of the other nations, but where the problem is when we follow their customs. So going back to that picture of Mahomes, and then you read some of them comments, oh, his line's whitewashed, blah, blah, blah. That, you know, them 2/3 talking shit and all that. No, the line ain't whitewashed. Yeah, they might not look like, the kids might not look like straight up Negroes and all that. But the line is still preserved because the father is Mahomes. His father's Mahomes Senior. All right? So those children are Israelites. Those kids are Israelites, man. All right, they're still part of the fold, so to speak. They're still from the bloodline of Israel. So it says, Numbers 1:18, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upwards by their polls. Exactly, so the pedigree is declared by the house of your father, so not by the mother. Not by your mother. The mother is, the mother is like the earth. You know what I'm saying? And then the soil. You know, the soil is the mother, and then the seeds planted by the father, the sperm, all right, comes from the man, which plants into the earth, which is the woman. Then the baby cultivates into the earth and grows and is produced. All right? So your seed is by the man. You know? So that's part of the confusion of this world. The seed of man is where your lineage is preserved, basically. But that's part of the confusion of this world, that they teach that, you know, there's a such thing as mix, and Esau teaches all that nonsense. There's a such thing as mix, and you know, the whole world believes it. And if a black man now gets with a white woman, he's not preserving his line. No, his line's still preserved. It's just he's preserving it with a woman of another nation. All right? So, and there's no sin in that. There's no sin in having babies with a women of the other nations. There's no sin for an Israelite. That's our right. We can do that if we want. All right? So, yeah, man, hey, with that, I'm going to say all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect Akim teaching this word. Shalom, Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Rucha, Kodash. Shalom.